So it's your big day, it's the club championship, it's the club medal where you really want to get your handicap down, and you've really prepared for this one. You're really emphasising the day. It's a big day ahead and you want to prepare for this tournament the best you can. I'm going to show you the common mistakes that people make building up to a tournament and maybe a contributing factor as to why they don't do as well as they'd maybe like to. Hello everyone and welcome back into the Blow Par YouTube channel. Today with myself, Joe Stevens. As you'd have seen in the intro there, I'm going to take you through the common mistakes that I see golfers make building up to a tournament, on a tournament day, the club championship, a medal, whatever it might be. Hopefully you can relate to a few of these and hopefully try and change your ways to better your results. If you haven't already, I'm going to remind you again, please do subscribe. We've seen some really nice growth over the last few weeks and really appreciate the support. Join the journey. We're really enjoying this and hopefully you are too. So let's get on with the video. So I'm setting off at 10 o'clock today and I've now arrived at 9:15 on the driving range, ready to get warmed up, ready for the day. An hour and a quarter before my tee time. There's mistake number one. And I would actually say this is the most common mistake. How many of you turn up on a Saturday on a non-competition day, turn up with your friends, maybe half an hour before your tee time, maybe hit a couple of balls in the nets to loosen up. This is a warm-up to go out and play golf. This is not a practice session. This is the main point I'd like to make in this first point today, is arriving to the range too early for what looks like a practice session rather than what should be a warm-up, maybe half an hour prior to before you go out. The danger with getting down here too early and starting to introduce a practice session and start hitting shots that look a little bit like this one, you're going to start to think something's wrong with your swing potentially. Whereas it might be the first few swings of the day and you're just getting loosened up. You're going to start to overthink things. Get down to the range half an hour before you tee off and warm up. Don't practice. So point number two then, this arguably could have been point number one because this is before you've even left to come to the golf course. And this will probably be going around your head throughout the day really, putting too much pressure on yourself. Think about all the best rounds you've had out of competition. You've turned up maybe 20 minutes before your tee time, like we said, loosened up a little bit and gone to the first tee, had a great time with your friends, hit the ball with no consequence. You're not really worrying about your score or that sort of thing. And you've gone out there and played and you've had a great score. So why would that be different on a competition day? Why do you think waking up a little bit earlier, getting your nutrition right for one day, I don't know why I've made that expression, but for one day you've changed your nutrition to maybe think this is a miracle fix. It might make you a little bit more confident in your head, but ultimately it's not going to change your golf game. It probably will make it a little bit worse because you're out of the ordinary going to play your game of golf. So to wrap up point number two then, it's putting too much emphasis on the day, waking up and changing your routine. Never change your routine unless it's an awful one. We'll go through at the end how I would structure a tournament day, how I would get to the golf course, all of those points that we're going to break down and I'll make my recommendation towards the end. But these are just the common mistakes. 1, practicing. 2, changing your whole routine for the day. Let's move on to number 3. So point number 3, this is one I'm really guilty of. It's something we probably neglect. How many of you neglect the short game? How many of you will miss the first green because it's early in the day, it's an early swing, it's maybe a tired swing, still trying to get into your round? How many of you are just off the green and just don't have that feel, purely because you haven't hit any chip shots that day? Some of you may be able to get away with it, but I would encourage you to spend 5-10 minutes just to get club on the back of the ball, see a few different flights around the green and just get that touch ready for the day. Doesn't need to be a long one. Like we said in point number 1, it's not a practice session, it's warming up, it's getting yourself ready. Fourth and final common mistake that I see then is people do exactly this. Bit hard. Quit on that, needs more. bit hard again. How many times do you see 3 balls drop down and just hit with no practice strokes out towards a hole? You might get the first one perfectly right, but if that first one's a little bit off for pace and you hit your next one a little bit more tentative because you've hit it too hard, for example in that one, get yourself ready for your game of golf in a sensible way. Stop thinking about results the whole time. Where we spoke about in point number 1 we made there, don't turn it into a practice session, because after a couple of bad shots you're going to start to think about technique and results. Hopefully those 4 make sense. I'm going to take you through what I would encourage you all to do building up to a tournament day, from turning up to the golf course all the way to the first tee. This is the journey that I recommend you take. It might not work for everyone, but this keeps it simple and hopefully it'll help you take a little bit of emphasis off the day and how to just ease your way into a tournament round. So hopefully those 4 points made sense, and I would imagine a lot of you watching this video have started to relate to that and start to think, oh, maybe that is me. I would encourage you maybe to get out of those habits, unless you find that they work for you. Neglecting your short game, practicing for too long before you go out. Hey, who am I to tell you that that doesn't work for you? But it's very, very common that really does not help. So let's recap those 4 points then. Turning your warm-up into a practice when you're on the driving range. Number 2, changing your whole routine for the day. I missed a few points out. Cleaning your clubs the night before. Is that something you normally do before you go out and play with your friends on a day where you're just playing for fun? If you don't, why are you cleaning them the night before a tournament? It's all of these things putting too much pressure on this round. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, short game. Don't neglect the short game. If you don't normally do it, I would encourage you to put this one in. So it's not a case of telling you not to do it. I'm actually encouraging you to practice some short game before you go out. It's really, really important. And number 4, putting. Don't put the hole in play too early. We're going to go through a little bit more in depth putting wise as we go through these recommendations now on how I would structure my warm up before I go out in a tournament. And this is something that I try and follow, not to the second, but this is generally how I will warm up. It means I've covered every base and I'm not digging myself a hole and putting too much emphasis on my tournament round. Let's take a look at how I would do it. So it's a tournament day then. I've got a 10 o'clock tee time and I've arrived at the golf course an hour before. So an hour gives me plenty of time to make sure I'm not worried about being late. And you know what? I can go and get a coffee, I can go and do whatever I like for the first sort of 15 minutes. Check in if I need to, get my card, get everything I need. That will then leave me 45 minutes. So 45 minutes before I tee off, I will come down to the driving range. And it will take me 15 to 20 minutes. There's always a bit of a buffer on these where I'll take no more than 20 minutes on the range, but I won't. It will be around 15 to 20 minutes. I'll get a bucket of golf balls with about 30 in. Gives me enough time to warm up. But like I said in those common mistakes beforehand, don't hit too many. And actually this is a warm up. I'll take the majority of my time hitting wedges, starting to find a routine and starting to find some rhythm. So let's jump in. Some of you might even want to take 5 minutes to do some stretches. It's not something that I've necessarily done down the years. It makes me sound really old saying that. I'm only 24. But maybe doing some stretches, limber up before you hit a few golf balls, great. But I find that hitting 1/2 to 3/4 wedges to start starts to get my body moving. Just getting club on back of ball. Sounded northern then. Club on back of ball. It's not a dig at any northerners, by the way. It just sounded northern. Missing out the word there. So just easing through. So I'm not really finding a yardage at this point. I'm just getting club on the back of the golf ball, easing my way through my technique. We then start to build it up. So once I've hit about 15 wedges, I'll then move to my 7-iron. Then starting to take a few fuller swings. A bit heavy, but we're not worried about that. All we're trying to do here is warm up. That's better. And if you've got a grass range, try and make a nice little divot patch. Good for OCD. So I've hit a few 7-irons now, I'm getting towards the end. I'll always reserve my last couple of golf balls for visualising the tee shot that I'm going to see off the first. I've already planned that in my head. Haven't planned my whole round, but the first tee shot is worth thinking about. Knowing what club you're going to hit saves any sort of confusion on the first tee, debating which club you're going to hit. Always reserve the last two to try and replicate that tee shot. So I've got my 3-wood then as the last 2 balls of my warm-up. It's taken me about 15-16 minutes up to this point. So I'm within my time parameters. I've taken my time, I've loosened up, I'm feeling loose now. And 3-wood's the club I'm going to hit off the first tee. So I'm going to hit my last 2, visualising a couple of targets and just getting my swing to come on through that golf ball. Pick a target. Pretty happy with that one. Let's hit one more just to check everything's in order. Nice to finish on a good one, but we're not going to put too much emphasis on that. Pick the target. Okay, we're happy. So that's our range work done. We've taken around 15-16 minutes to complete that exercise. We're now nice and loose. We've now got around half an hour before we're on the first tee. We're now going to take 10 minutes to go and hit some short game shots. Even better if you've got a few leftover golf balls in your range basket. So half an hour to go then before my tee time, and I'm going to spend 10 minutes on short game. I'm going to hit 5 shots from 5 different locations. I'm going to start with a nice simple one, plenty of green to work with. We're going to hit to targets, but we're not going to worry too much. We're just going to get club on the back of the golf ball, see a few flights, make sure the technique's roughly where we want it to be, and play these shots as you would out on the golf course. Put yourselves in these scenarios. So I've got a pitching wedge here. We're going to start to see the golf ball release out a little bit lower. This is what I'd expect to see on the golf course. 5 shots. Great, so there's my first 5. We're going to move on to a slightly different lie then. So new location then. I'm going to have to take a bit more loft here. I've got a 54, so just putting ourselves in different scenarios. I've got to get over a bit of a ridge here so we see a little less release out of the rough as well. And again, all we're going to do, try and get club on the back of that golf ball. Getting yourself used to different lies, hitting 5 shots. Vary the lies, some difficult ones, so pop one down with plenty of grass in behind the golf ball. Might need to create a little bit more speed. Some comes out a little bit softer. Just putting yourself in these different scenarios. If you hit a couple of bad ones, doesn't matter. We'd rather do it here than out on the golf course. Some people might tell you you need more than 5 golf balls in the bunker. If you want to, please do. But for the purpose of what I try and do, just making sure that I'm comfortable in every scenario on the golf course. I'm going to take my setup as I normally would, maybe play around with a few different flights. Sort of mid-flights, a little bit heavy that one, but again, it doesn't matter at all. We're just getting used to seeing that golf ball come out the bunker. Not great, but again, we're just getting warmed up. We're getting that interaction with the sand, come out the bunker. Just making sure we're getting our technique flowing, much like we have throughout all of these shots. I'd then move on to a lob shot, then maybe a few random ones to finish from 5 shots. That takes me to 20 minutes before my tee time. This is where some of you might start to panic a little bit. Don't panic, because if you start to get in the routine of doing the same sort of thing every time, not regimented, but the same sort of thing every time, you'll start to make sure or have that reassurance in your head that you've covered all bases and you're ready to go once you get to that first tee. So it's getting closer to our tee time. We're 20 minutes away. We're now made it to the putting green. So you know I said about the mistake that people make, bringing the hole into play straight away. Real killer, real killer for confidence if you don't quite get those first couple of putts quite right. So the first thing I will do then is putt to the fringe, absolutely putt to the fringe. Making sure that you're getting your stroke comfortable, looking at where you want the ball to go. We're not looking at line, all we're looking at here is pace. A few practice strokes, looking at the pace and just stroking that golf ball out to where we want it to go. A few practice strokes, clubbing behind, not worrying about the line, just stroking that golf ball through. A little bit pacier that one, but not the end of the world. Same again. Perfectly pin high. So I'm less worried about the line here. All I'm trying to do is feel the pace. When there's less emphasis on the hole and the results, you're much more relaxed and you can start to feel the pace of the green so much easier. So I've hit my putts to the fringe then. I'm comfortable with the pace of the green. This is where I can start to hit some random putts around the green while keeping my 3 golf balls with me. So I'll find a hole, I'll lob one 6 to 8 feet away, one about 15 feet away, and then one maybe a little bit further away. What I'll do is start to bring line into play. So I'm going to take my practice strokes as I normally would. That was better. So notice my pace is really comfortable there because I've warmed up in the proper way. So once I've completed that random practice with 3 golf balls, it's time to get a little bit serious. We're now 5 minutes away or so from heading to the first tee and hitting our first tee shots. We've covered all bases, we've hit our shots on the range, we haven't done too much on that. We've covered our short game stuff, we've covered our chipping, we've covered our bunker play. Now it's starting to get serious. We're going to start to put ourselves in match situations or tournament situations. So 2 of these golf balls, off they go. This is my ball that I'm going to be teeing up on the first tee. So I'll put my markings on there and we're going to start to hit putts as we would as we're out on the golf course. So by this point, you'll have your marker in your pocket, you'll have a few tees ready to go straight to the first tee, and you don't have to worry about getting ready. You're already ready. All you need to do is put your putter in your bag and bring the club you're hitting off the first tee out of your bag. So with our marker at the ready then, we're going to hit random putts and we're going to hole out every single time here. And this is just winding up to 10 minutes before our tee time. So we're going to throw one down, see where it lands. Here we go. So I'm going to mark it up. I'm going to give it a read. I'm going to come back in, put my line down, pick my line after I've read it. I'm going to take my normal routine as I normally would. Couple of practice strokes while looking at the hole. I'm going to try and roll that ball end over end, try and pop it in the hole and miss the hole by an inch. If you would normally mark that golf ball and line it up, please do. I wouldn't. I would just tap it in. So we're going to do plenty of repetitions on this, guys. Let's go a slightly longer one. We're going to mark it, we're going to line it up as we would. So once we've done 5 minutes or so, or however long you have with one golf ball, marking the golf ball, lining it up as you would on the course normally, it's ready to head to the first tee. So here we are then on the first tee. Less nerve-wracking today because there's no one here, I'm on my own, but just wanted to replicate some of these conditions for you. So we've already got everything ready. We've already practiced this shot on the range. We pick our target and we go for it. Hopefully hit the fairway like that every single time. So hopefully that helps. I'm in the fairway, I'm ready, I'm prepared. Hopefully these tips help you. If they have, do let us know down in the comments. We'd really like to hear from you. If you haven't already, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to the channel. Guys, we'll see you in the next video.